Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and some theories that are coming around regarding perhaps some illusion connected with time. And I'm going to elaborate and expound on that. Well, first off, there's been like a fairly, popular theory that has been going around. I've been seeing it on the internet. I've heard about it from at least one person. And it's that from, about 2020 till like the beginning of 2025, roughly. I'm just, throwing this out approximate, dates here, that it seemed like time to a lot of people had really, hit an accelerator button and it went by quicker than what a lot of people would have anticipated. Yes, I understand you have of course, for older people, time goes by, quicker. I mean, really, virtually everybody, time is generally going to go by quicker in their minds every year than the previous one because it represents a smaller percentage of the life that the person has lived compared to the previous year, especially with older people. Time is going to go by pretty quick. A year is basically nothing. I mean, to me, I'm 55. Years go by at a very accelerated pace for me. But even factoring that in, that 5-year period from the beginning of 2020 to the beginning of 2025, you went by quicker for a lot of older people. Even people that had that have lived so many years, even with that, that factoring in what I just stated about how every year, appears to go by a little quicker than the previous one in our minds. So the thing about it was a lot of people see that as like a blur, those five, roughly, that 5-year period, again, from the beginning of 2020 to the beginning of 2025. For 5 years went by very quickly. Some will speculate, that there may have been some manipulation of time. I don't know if that really happened or not. I think some of this has been due to domination by the internet, social media. People just, they get in their zone, they go on their computer, and the time just seems to go by, quickly for people. You have days, maybe blending in with others. A lot of the days, seem a lot to be, the same, I think, because people are so immersed and engrossed in doing what they're doing online and on the internet or what have you. And the thing about this is I'm going to talk about some astrology connected with it. There's some real, just some basic transits that, may correlate with what I'm describing. Now, for one thing, we're going to have Saturn is going to conjoin Neptune. We'll continue to conjoin Neptune till May 29th, 2006. I'm using an 8-degree orb for that aspect for the conjunction. Everybody uses something different. I'm using 8 degrees on it. I don't know if it winds up, if they conjoin each other again at a later point in time, but what I'm saying is during, in the next year or two after that, but I'm just saying I know that they will be conjunct each other until May 29th, 2026. So, and during that time, you're going to have, I would say, continued reflection on what I just stated, because Saturn is connected with time and timekeeping. Neptune is about illusion. We're going to have, transit Saturn is currently retrograde, but transit Saturn is going to transition into Pisces, retrograde on September 1st. 2025. So even during that time, I think people are going to be going back in time and looking, and trying to figure out if there was some illusion connected with time or not. And it did seem very odd as far as that, that period, goes. Again, when we started out, with COVID, we had, of course, we had a lot of isolation, solitude, and seclusion. People, in time, for a lot of people, I think just, really did go by, even though you may think what's odd is that when you're in isolation, a lot of times there's not like an overabundance of things to do, and you would think the time would be more sluggish and it would go by a lot slower. But I think still for a lot of people, what makes it bizarre is that it did seem like it went by quicker than a lot of people, believe, that it should have. And I find that very perplexing. And, I don't know if there was any, any force out there that manipulated with time, but it did seem like for that 5-year period, it did go by even quicker than what you would think 5 years would go by, even for an older person, like such as myself. So again, I do find that whole thing, very perplexing and bizarre, to say the least. And I think we're going to have, again, there's going to be a lot of reflection on this during the time that Saturn is retrograde in Pisces. You're going to see a lot of review on the time and see if there was, as far as people, again, pontificating, speculating regarding, the illusion that may have been connected with. And a lot of it could have just been in, some people's minds, that it did seem like it went by very quickly. Some people even claim they don't really have, the recollection of that, a lot of the days during that period. So, and again, I think what happened was when we got into, the COVID period, and say again, if that, the more prevalent time may have been from, say the beginning of 2020 to like the beginning of 2022, you had a lot of people that went into isolation. People became collectively much more, introverted, introspective. You had, the time where, a lot of the days were very similar to a lot of people being, pent up in their homes. And it just, and I think, this is all going off on a Gemini moon tangent here. What happened was people became, I think many people stayed in that mode, unfortunately, even when we got through 2022 and you saw like this COVID, starting to, dwindle down, dissipate a little. But I believe COVID is still out there now, but of course it's gone down significantly as far as the cases or what have you, and the threat is not, nearly as eminent as it had been back in that earlier, period. And especially 2020, I think, is when it was peaking. But again, you want to confer that on the internet to see, whether that was actually, how, valid or accurate that may be, as far as the dates. And because I don't really remember 100% what these precise dates were, but I do remember 2020, it was very prevalent. It seemed like it dominated like the media and, headlines online and so on and so forth. But this is again, this is going to be a time, I think, where you're going between the fact that you're going to have Saturn coming up, retrograde in Pisces, and then you're going to have, the continuation of the conjunction with Saturn and Neptune. It's going to be very telling, and there's going to be people trying really hard, racking their brains to see why there was like, you had all this, why did time seem like it went by so quickly for many during that 5-year stretch. And I'm really curious to see if there's any more theories and speculation, regarding this online, if there's anything anybody adds to what I just stated. It just seems like now this has become a very, trendy topic, to say the absolute least. And I understand we're going to have the lunar eclipse in Pisces. I believe it's on September 7th, and maybe we'll have some, info from others, maybe more insight into this around this time, no pun intended, around this time, because Pisces, again, is about illusion, and full moon lunar eclipses can be about revelations and unveilings, and you may have a very strong one, during this time, considering it is we're not talking about a regular full moon, it will be a lunar eclipse. So it's something to, something to look at. So, and during that time, no pun intended, again, you will have Saturn in Pisces retrograde at that time of the lunar eclipse in Pisces. So, it could be a little bit more telling, and people being able, to speak out a little more about, what I was just describing. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.